3rd, 2010, and we are interviewing, or we're going to let him do the talking, Mr. Eugene Canter, and you take it from here and tell us all about your hunts.
All righty. Thank you very much, Faye. I'd like to start with, if you can get your camera on the elk rack up high here in the house.
With the, the
that's
rack.
the big rack
Okay,
in the
yeah.
center.
I think we. Okay.
The elk rack is an animal that I did not harvest myself, but my daughter lives in Jackson, Wyoming, and her boyfriend found this rack and was able to pick it up. They can only pick them up from beginning on April the 1st. You can start picking up sheds, and he had found this earlier in the winter, but he picked it up, and we were out there on Memorial Day weekend, and he asked me if I'd like to have it, so I told him I would, and he gave it to me, and I actually brought it back on the plane, and so I'm real glad to have it in my game room, and it's a nice addition to the game room, but it's not an animal that I harvested myself. And this deer here is an 8-pointer. I took this deer in Allegheny County near Piney Creek, North Carolina, and this was probably back in the early 80s, and I was able to harvest this deer with a muzzleloader. And this deer over here is a deer that I took near Stone Mountain Park in Trap Hill. I had a friend that owned property there, and he allowed me to hunt. His name is Thomas Jones. And we were hunting on his property, and I was able to take this 8-pointer there. That was also a muzzleloader kill. And the big deer above is a deer that I took in Grayson County, Virginia. We had property leased in Grayson County, Virginia, between the mouth of Wilson and Independence, Virginia. And that again was a muzzleloader kill. I don't do a lot of deer hunting with a rifle. I do most of my hunting with bow or with the muzzleloader. So that's the reason most of these deer were taken with a muzzleloader. This deer was taken in Grayson County, Virginia, again on land that we had leased up an area called Saddle Creek. And when I took this deer, it was kind of a strange thing. I had seen a smaller deer several times the evening before and the next morning when I was hunting, and I had passed him up. He was just a 6-pointer. This deer's an 8-pointer, so I saw this 8-pointer coming by, and I shot him, and he ran with the muzzleloader, so he got out of sight, and just in a minute I saw another deer coming from the same area that I had shot this in, but he was coming back the way this deer had gone, and so I thought it was this deer that I maybe had not made a good shot on, and so I shot the other deer, and it ended up that the second deer was the 6-pointer, a deer that I didn't intend to kill, but I killed him anyway, but we were allowed 2 deer, so that wasn't a problem as far as legally speaking is concerned, but that kind of covers the deer over here on this particular wall. This grouse, this is a ruffed grouse, hanging over the door here is a bird that I actually mounted myself, and I killed this bird over in Watauga County probably back in the 70s. I don't remember the exact date, but and I mounted it myself. Then when you get to this rack, this is a deer that I killed with a bow, again in Grayson County, Virginia, on our deer lease. And this deer rack here is another deer that I killed with a bow in Grayson County, Virginia. And the coyote that's hanging on it was also killed in Grayson County. And this animal was killed in the fall of 2009, this year. And I killed this animal at 135 yards with a muzzleloader. So it was about the longest shot I've ever made with a muzzleloader. Is usually good up to about 100 yards. Of course, they've got them, some of the newer ones now that are, you know, good for a longer distance than that. But that was the longest shot I'd made with my muzzleloader anyway. And I will go back to this one other deer rack right over here. This deer, the reason he's mounted with a skull mount, when I was hunting in Grayson County, Virginia, again on our deer lease, saw this deer coming. His rack looked like it was about this wide. And I shot him with my muzzleloader, and I was standing against a real large poplar tree. And the deer, I shot him to my right, he ran around and came straight to me and stopped within arm's length of me with his head down like that. I had my muzzleloader, which is only a single shot gun, which was empty. And so I didn't know what to do. I just pulled the gun up in front of me like this to try to protect myself from him. And I guess he saw some of the movement. He ran over to my left about 20 yards and fell over. I'd made a good shot on him, but it was kind of scary to see that deer standing 3 feet of me with his head down in a large rack like that. But what had really happened that made him look so wide, his skull was completely broken on the left side, and his left antler was laid way down like this. It had actually rubbed a little hole in his scalp where the antler had flopped back and forth as he was walking. So he was kind of a unique thing that I've never seen that before or since. For a deer, I've seen them with their antlers broken, but never their skull plate. So that was kind of a unique happening to have happen in the deer woods that day. And over on this area in the corner here, we'll have the very first wild turkey that I killed. I killed this turkey in 1984 in Thurman Chatham Refuge up Highway 18 here in Welch County. And I mounted this turkey myself. And I mounted him as he walked into me. He looked just as he did now. He was not in a strut or anything. So I mounted him like I saw him and shot him. And that was my very first experience calling in a wild turkey. This buck here in the corner is a 9-pointer that was killed in Grayson County, Virginia. And he's a pretty good sized deer, but at the time that I shot this deer and saw him, I was actually disappointed because just 3 days before I had seen a much larger buck in this same field than this. And when I first saw this buck come out, I thought he was the buck that I had seen 3 days before. But when I actually got him on the ground, I realized he was not the one that I had seen before. So I was kind of, even though he was really nice, I was kind of disappointed that I hadn't got the one that I saw a few days before. And to my knowledge, no one ever got that deer. And he was a very large deer for our part of the country. And so that was my experience with this particular deer. And this animal here is an antelope. I killed this animal in near Gillette, Wyoming in 1982. Was the first time that I ever went out west on a hunting trip. And me and 3 other friends were together, and we had a tag for an antelope and a mule deer. So I was lucky to take this antelope. I killed him at about 300 yards with a .270 rifle. And then over on the other wall, we have a mule deer that I killed this mule deer on the same trip. And we were not able to see any large rack deer at all the whole time we were out there. The whole group of us, each of our mule deer were just little forkhorns like this one. But hopefully this year I'm going to Montana mule deer hunting in November, so hopefully I'll have a chance to get a larger one and someday have it mounted and put on the wall here in my game room. This turkey tail mount, I did this mount myself. This bird was killed the spring here of 2010 near San Francisco, California. In fact, it was killed near a little town called Martinez, California. I have a friend that lives out there that I met in 1998 in Montana elk hunting while we were bow hunting out there for elk. We've been friends ever since. He comes in each year to my elk camp in Idaho and hunts with me, and he been wanting us to come out to his home in Martinez, California. He's a CEO for Shell Western Credit Union in Martinez. So Randall Jarvis and myself decided to go out and turkey hunt with him this spring. So we flew out on the 29th of March on Monday and hunted on Tuesday and Wednesday and flew back on Thursday. And I was lucky enough to kill 2 turkeys, one on Tuesday and one on Wednesday while I was out there. And this is a different species of turkey than we have here in Wilkes County. We have what's called an eastern wild turkey here. This turkey is called the Rio Grande. They're mostly down in Texas and a lot of our western units, but in California, in the area that we were hunting, there never was a local species of wild turkey in that area, but the Game Commission in California stopped the turkeys there several years ago, and they got the Rio Grande species to stock there. So that's the reason we kill that particular species of turkey. That their tails are colored about like an eastern bird, but they're a little bit shorter, and these feathers are usually a little bit lighter color. The fox that's mounted here on the top of the gun cabinet is a fox that I killed in my backyard at my old house down in Mills Creek, next to right behind the Mills Creek post office. And I shot that little fox one evening out in the backyard with a .22 rifle several years ago, and I had him mounted. I didn't do the mounting on that one. The pheasant, that's a ringneck pheasant, I killed up Highway 16 back in the 70s. My father-in-law had a farm up there. It was my wife's mother, Mary Kate Reeves' home place. And I was up working on the farm for him that day, and drove out to the highway to come home and looked out in the field and saw this ringneck pheasant out in the field, which are not native, not even to the United States, but in the South, they don't even survive down here at all. They're mostly up in the northern states. But I went over and borrowed a gun from preacher Glenn Huffman, who lived right near my mother-in-law's home place, and I borrowed his shotgun and went over to he was right near the creek, the Reddish River actually, and when I walked in and flushed the bird up, he flew across the river, and when I shot him, he fell on the other side.